Welcome to the Cowtown Cats Lacrosse Podcast, where we talk all things Panther City Lacrosse Club. Now here are your hosts, Nicholas and Andy.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Cowtown Cats Lacrosse Podcast. And this is more of our end of the year 2023 highlights episode. Last season at the end of the year last year at the end of the year, we did kind of a top 5 moments from the year. And this year I was like, well, hey, we should do something like that again. So this is a little bit more unscripted, but you know, we have a chance to talk about kind of our year in review with us and Panther City. So I'm Nicholas, of course, joined by Andy.
Hello.
And Andy, it another year has passed, and we're into season 3 of Panther City. You know, we're getting ready for 2024.
Indeed, yeah. Wow, time flies, and there have been a lot of great moments. Obviously, this season's early on, but this combined with how things finished last year, there's a lot of great moments that we can go over.
Yeah, and let's just let everybody know right off the bat, there's probably a few moments we're going to, both have in our list. And this is the top moment of all time of the year and stuff like that. This is just our top 5 moments, and we get to kind of talk about them over. But, I'll kick things off. My first moment from this year, and it was a small moment, but it was a fun moment, was mainly because we kind of got to talk to the person who designed them. But for me, my number 5 moment was the Texas theme night for Panther City earlier this year, where they got to wear their first ever custom jersey, which shout out to Abigail Rosenbaum. I mean, I hope she's doing good where she's at now, but I just thought that was kind of a cool moment for not only Panther City to have their own custom jerseys, but for them to auction it off, and then for us, the fans, to just be like, oh, that's awesome that they made something unique.
Well, even at the games nowadays, one of the coolest things is to see some of those Texas Forever or Texas Heritage Night jerseys floating around. Like you said, shout out to Abby. I think she got a great opportunity at the collegiate level out of state, so she's doing well, and I'll credit her. She did a great job with those designs, and the team liked them. Obviously, the fans liked them, raised a lot of money. So, yeah, that absolutely deserves to be in there.
Yeah. Like I said, it's not a big moment, but for me, it was just like something really cool because they teased them early on in the season, and then they had the team take pictures with them, and then of course with them auctioning it off, and now you get to see them pretty much any home game. The people who won those jerseys, which, as we talked about when it happened, I kind of wish I would have won one. But yeah, so that's my number 5 moment. What about for yourself? What's the first one you got for your list?
I think we ended up taking slightly different routes on this, because all of mine are probably more game related. Because thinking about what you said, that I thought, man, I should have had that in my top 5. But be that as it may, I had a moment from last season in my 5th spot as well. It was actually a little watch party that you and I had at somewhere in Fort Worth or Arlington. Okay. And it was a game against the Philadelphia Wings in Philadelphia, January 14th, 2023. Panther City was down by 4 goals early on and somehow came back to win by 2 points, including an incredible juke by Will Malcolm to give Panther City the lead with just under a minute to go in the 4th. It was probably, I don't know if I'd call it the signature win of that year, but it definitely helped kind of turn the season around a bit, especially as it was in the midst of the long January road trip that the team goes on annually. So really good win, got us going in the right direction for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, that was, first of all, that was so much fun to watch the game and just interact with other people who were like started kind of getting interested into what we were watching, because obviously there was like football and basketball and all that going on, but yeah, having that Will Malcolm juke, oh my gosh, believe me, it was definitely something. I was even thinking not even the game, just that play in itself as a top 5 moment, because just how good it was. But yeah, no, that was definitely a highlight of this season. For my next moment, again, I think we kind of took some different avenues on this. My next moment was kind of a two-parter because the second part will come up later, but it's Panther City clinching their first ever playoff berth, and it was it was something that I think we had both, were hoping for as the season started, and obviously, something that we thought could happen. And as the season went on, we were like, oh my gosh, I mean, we're playing really good. We're getting some good wins. We're kind of in the thick of things. Can we make it? And can we get to that spot to where we make the playoffs? And sure enough, it was April 15th against Vancouver, a 9-8 win. Very hard-fought game, but a 9-8 win against Vancouver led to our first ever playoff berth for Panther City. I thought that was just a great moment in itself for the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a great win. I won't go into it in as much detail because it might be a little higher up on my list. Spoiler alert. But yeah, great choice.
Yeah, no, I mean it was just a good experience for not only the team but for us, the fans. But yeah, that was what I had for number 4. What do you got for your number 4?
My number 4, you don't have to go too far back. It's actually within the same month. December 1st, we had a season opening win to start off this current season. I thought it was important because, 1, it's the season opener in this new format that we have, but 2, it was on the road in Vancouver. Now, granted, the team's only 3 years old at this point, but it was our first road opening win ever because we lost the first ever game the inaugural season, and last year's one against Las Vegas was at home. So it was great to see the team come out strong on the road to start out. There was a shaky start as we have become kind of accustomed to, letting an early goal get past us, but those last 3.5 quarters were excellent, and Callum Crawford started out his 18th season with a bang, with 5 goals total. So really good way to kick things off this year, and hopefully we can recapture some of that magic going into 2024.
Well, and yeah, no, I mean, Crawford having that night the way he did just was kind of icing on the cake, which, spoiler alert, leads me into my number 3 moment. And again, it's not really game related, but it's a moment that I think has affected the team since, and that was January 18th. We make a trade with the New York Riptide to get Callum Crawford. Not only that, but it's a two-parter. We get that, and then a re-sign in the off-season to keep him. I think both of those moments can kind of be conjoined into one, but I think that's a moment for Panther City, the team, and for the fans to be like, yes, we have this veteran player, we have this experience, now let's take that experience and go forward. And go forward we did at the end of last season for sure, and coming into this season with him not only having great games at the end of last year, helping us get in the playoffs, but then like you just mentioned, having a great game right off the bat this season.
Yeah, this is kind of funny. I didn't think this would happen, but my number 3 is basically exactly the same as yours. Well, not quite, because I only counted the trade and didn't even think about us re-signing him this offseason. But yeah, that January 18th trade with the Riptide, where we essentially gave up draft capital and some backups, like Daniel's backup in goalie next to McLeod, I think was Kevin Orleman. Yep. And so basically traded these guys that weren't getting much time for us to give them a better opportunity, and some draft capital down the road to show that Panther City was serious about winning now. And Callum, his play speaks for itself. He's an all-time great, and he's a great veteran presence for the younger guys on the team too. So for us to be able to get someone of that caliber in just our second season, I think he's a big part of why we had so much success in just season number 2.
Well, and I think you kind of touched on it too. Maybe a slight reason why he decided to sign with us was because he does have, he has his family in Oklahoma. He coaches in there. So, it worked out for both us and him. It's like, hey,
yes,
we'll trade for this guy and it's beneficial to you too. And he's like, okay, well, hey, which again I think was a factor that led to him staying with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think he likes the proximity. Obviously, he's still hungry for a title. He has great familiarity with Coach TK from TK's playing days. So really, he's fit like a glove so far. And hopefully, he's still got a lot left in the tank. For all indications indicate that he does. So it'll be awesome to see how he does to not finish out his career, but play these high teenth seasons for him.
Yeah, for sure. And it was just kind of a big moment for, like you said, the team as a whole to get that kind of a veteran leadership in there. Well, since we both had number 3, I'll let you kick off number 2 on this one. Then what's your number 2 for you got?
My number 2 was actually your number 4.
Oh,
so
there you go.
It was the April 15th playoff clinching win versus Vancouver, again on the road. Man, like Vancouver dots a lot of my moments, I guess.
Yeah, right.
Unfortunately for them, and in Vancouver. So, yeah, like you mentioned, it was a great back and forth affair. Pretty low scoring at 9-8, but it was capped off by a great Matt Hossack go-ahead goal in transition pretty late. I don't remember if it was the go-ahead score or the tying score. I want to say it was a go-ahead, but regardless, it was great to see that from Haas of all guys, the captain who leads the team, and just showed what a great leader and performer he is in crunch time. Obviously, we got close to the inaugural season, but didn't quite make it. So for us to get over that hump as early as year 2 was really cool to see. So, yeah, that's my number 2.
Well, and not only, touching on that game a little bit more, I mean, it was good not only for the team, but like Daymud, I mean, he had some really clutch saves at the end of that game too, to keep us at that 1-goal lead. So, once the horn sounded, I mean, he just went off. He was excited. Everybody was excited because they knew that's all they needed to clinch that spot was that one win. It was pretty much a win that game and get in. But yeah, it was a great moment for them. That moment leads to my number 2 moment. Believe me, there's other moments. I might touch on some honorable mentions as well before we get to our number 1. But my number 2 moment was the playoff game against Calgary, and I'm gonna say it's not because we lost. It's because we showed that we belonged. Because it could have been just a complete blowout. We went against Calgary the week before. We got the snot kicked out of us pretty much. Mm-hmm. And so coming into this game, it was like, well, we can either let that happen again or we can show up. And sure, the final score was 12-9. So it doesn't seem like it was close, but I think for the most part, it was close pretty much the entire game. And not only that, but just us getting a chance to go to a watch party and see the fans there and meet other people rooting for Panther City. That was just an experience in itself. But that's my number 2 moment, their first playoff game in franchise history.
Yeah, that, like you mentioned, the game itself was a good one. It's unfortunate they didn't come out with a win, but really good experience for the guys. And then the watch party itself, just meeting other fans, hanging out with them in that kind of more intimate environment, cheering the team on the road. Yeah, again, kind of similar to earlier. I don't want to talk too much about it because it might be coming up for me.
Well, before we get to our number 1s, I definitely wanted to touch on a few honorable mentions. I don't know if you had any honorable mentions. One of them I wanted to touch on was just the extension of Coach TK. I mean, the fact that we signed him to an extension in the offseason, getting that leadership in the locker room for the next few years, I think is a moment that should be highlighted in 2023. Do you have any you wanted to highlight just as your kind of maybe honorable mention that you could think of?
The ones that come to mind are, I know he was extended. I believe Bob Hamley was extended as well.
Is it?
So we already touched about on Crawford's earlier. I believe Will Malcolm was extended this offseason. So there's a lot of those things those moves that happen over the offseason that are really key. I would, and then the like you said, the Texas Forever jerseys, that was a really really big one. For me personally, it was really cool meeting the players at the Lacrosse Unlimited store in Plano. There were, I think, 5 or 6 in market guys last year, so it was cool to meet them, get to talk to them about the season up to that point. And then after the season finale against Calgary, getting to chat with the players one-on-one and get their signatures on some nice merch, that was pretty cool. I'm going to cherish my signed jersey, that's for sure.
Yeah. No, that was a cool moment of, I'll say this and add, moments for me for this year. Just obviously everything we do with the podcast has been fun. I think interviewing Casey Busher, Abigail Rosenbaum, Nick Coyne, all of them, I think were great interviews. But not only that, but then like recording the season preview, getting to go to, Lacrosse Unlimited. As you guys will see later, we went to Panther City Barbecue, and Cowtown Brewery. But it was just, it was fun it's been fun to do these things and have these moments this year. So my thing that I'm looking forward to, and it'll be a moment for 2024, is finally getting to a home game and getting that press, experience, because that's something I'm excited to get to see.
Yeah, that's definitely something to look forward to. And man, I feel bad that I didn't think of those all those great guest interviews we had. And props to the team and those individuals themselves, Abby, Casey, and Nick, for taking time out of their schedules to be able to chat with us about the team and the season and what they did on a day-to-day basis. It gives us and gives y'all great content to listen to and talk about, and really kind of shows how accessible this team is and how friendly they are to try to foster the fan base.
Yeah, I'll say this. It'd be nice to see who the graphic designer is this year. It'd be fun to have them on, because I'll say this, at the Abigail Rosenbaum interview, that's probably our most listened to episode out of the entire year. So, obviously, getting that experience and getting that chance to interview them was exciting for not only us, but for them as well. Well, that, of course, leads us to our number one moment of the year. And I think I figured out what yours is. Mine, I'm sorry, there's only one moment that I think, besides the obvious, like, hey, we made the playoffs and stuff like that. But there is one moment this year that I think kind of stood out above the rest. And it is Jonathan Donville winning Rookie of the Year. He had just a crazy, amazing season for the team, and the numbers he put up last year, and the play that he had over the 2023 season, obviously was good enough to have some people take notice, leading him to the Rookie of the Year. I mean, he beat out some really good other rookies last year for sure. But no, for me, I think that's the top moment for 2023. Jonathan Donville getting that Rookie of the Year, and not only that, but like, hopefully that leads to a great second year, and maybe we can get some another Rookie of the Year going on this year. But I don't know. I just thought that was kind of a defining moment for not only him, but for the team as well for this year.
Yeah, man, that's a great shot. God, that's another one I didn't even think of. I guess I was so focused on the individual games, if you will. But yeah, very much deserved to Donville. And if I'm not mistaken, Gauthier was even in the running for it. So it was cool that we had not one, but 2 Rookie of the Year contenders, and that one of those guys was able to snag it. Obviously, in Patrick Dodd's first season, he was a contender as well. So the Panther City, hats off to the front office for being able to draft really well, bring in great young players who are able to contribute right off the bat, as Donville showed.
Well, yeah, and I think it just shows kind of what what they look for when they add pieces to this team. That's my number one. What do you have for your number one?
Well, it was, yeah, probably revealed a little bit earlier, but I got to go with the May 5th playoff game versus Calgary. The first one in the franchise's history, in its very young history of just 2 seasons. We didn't win the game, but the team held the lead early and played competitively without Coach TK at the helm. Steve Told did a great job getting the guys prepared and competitive. Calgary would eventually have not only the goalie of the year, but the MVP in Christian Del Bianco, who's obviously one of the best goalies in the league. Not only that, they have one of the best transition players of the league and 2-time reigning transition player of the year, Zach Currier. On top of that, you have guys like Tyler Pace who are really good. And so they had all this kind of, I don't want to call them a top heavy team, but all this talent that gets really noticed. And with us, the team, with Panther City being so young, we're really still kind of flying under the radar at this point. So the fact that those guys were able to compete without TK being able to help out, I think even though we lost, it gave the players a taste of things to come and hopefully whets their appetite for more postseason success in the future.
Yeah, and that's a fact we keep forgetting is that, Coach TK was unfortunately unable to coach during that game. So it's like, what could have happened? What might have happened, if he was there? And not saying that anything different might have happened, but I don't know. It gives you a different outlook, depending on who's running the ship. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Well, yeah, and now again, we touched on, or I mentioned it earlier. I think it was just a great moment for the team. It was a great moment for the fans, getting to meet all those fans. Not only that, but then like leading into this season and just having that kind of experience. Now obviously, we had wished that this season maybe would have started off a little bit differently with after that playoff appearance, but I think it gives us the opportunity, especially with no East and no West, it gives us the opportunity to a better chance to make the playoffs almost. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'd say so. And, the season's still young. If we can play, I don't want to say spoiler, but if we can surprise the league with some wins against high-level teams, I think that'll go a long way in stamping Panther City's footprint as a team to be reckoned with in the league. We hung close with Toronto. I imagine we're going to play. I'm hoping that we were able to give every team our best shot, regardless of where they are in the standings.
Well, and just, throwing it out there, I mean, we saw it last season. Georgia was able to come back from, a 1-win, season at that point and almost make the playoffs. Even in our first season, we struggled early on, but we were able to find enough footing to almost make the playoffs. So it's just, I think there's a couple of things we need to improve on going into the year of 2024. But, well, of course, I mean, that is our, again, not in any specific order, but our top 5 moments from 2023. What's one thing you would like to see in 2024? If you were to get a crystal ball out and say, this is one thing I want to see that happens for Panther City next year, what would it be?
I would say 2 things which kind of go hand in hand. I would say a playoff win is 1A and a home playoff game as 1B. Now, home playoff game obviously means we either get a top 4 seed or we don't get a top 4 seed, but we're able to win our first round matchup. Actually, I might have that a little off under the new format, but
I think it's still set up
the
same way. I think with just one game and then best of 3 and best of 3.
Okay, gotcha. So yeah, in that case, would definitely love to see a playoff win, whether it's at home or on the road. And with that should essentially guarantee us a home playoff game, which would be awesome for the fans to see.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same line as you are. I definitely want a home playoff game. I just want I want them to keep growing. I know that's hard to ask, with teams that maybe don't get as much recognition in the area or stuff like that. But I want the community to keep growing, and I want the fan base to keep going or growing, because I feel like that's what's ultimately going to get us, if we get a home playoff game, that's what's really going to set us off, is like, hey, we have this awesome home crowd, and, even that kind of energy can help us win a game that maybe we don't play great at. So, yeah, home playoff game for sure, but on the side, just the continuing growth of Panther City. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's definitely a good thing to look forward to. We've still got a great mix of vets and young talent. All of them, they're all really good players. They just got to figure out a way to gel on both ends of the ball and do that for sustained periods of time. With that, I think we can expect good things to come.
Yeah, well, hopefully those are things we get to see in 2024 as the new year comes upon us. As always, I know this is kind of a shorter episode, but thank you all for listening. As we've said before, be sure to check us out, of course, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or X, or whatever you want to call it. And of course, our full videos on YouTube. Thank you guys for a wonderful 2023. I am once again Nicholas.
And I'm once again Andy.
And we'll see you next year? Question mark?
Yeah. Technically next year, right?
Yeah. We're there, man. I mean, it's 2024, so I mean, it's crazy how this went by. But yeah, we'll see y'all next time.
Sweet. Cheers, y'all.
Yo.